All right, Colin is walking away, so start it with the hey. No. Hey guys, Paige Hurtado here. PDJ number 132386. I'm going to do as quick as I can in the bag. Let me preface this by saying my bag normally isn't this full. Oregon has some of the most diverse golf out there, so my bag tends to ebb and flow. So for this in the bag, I wanted to kind of put all of my discs in here that I go to on any given day in the greater Portland, Oregon area. So normally I'm trimming when I need to trim to keep a lighter bag, but right now we're going to start with some of the musts in our putters. I think the Praxis is probably one of the main reasons I wanted to get sponsored by TSA. It's the one that made me fall in love with the throwing putter. These things are primarily my throwing putters. Anytime I need something that's just laser straight, holds any angle, and go further than any of my other putters, I keep a Glow Praxis, which is a little bit more overstable than my Nebula Ethereal Praxis. So this one, released on the same angle as the Glow, is going to drift a little bit to the right, but holding the integrity of the whole flight. The Glow is going to hold that straight and then slight finish. So these two complement each other, and I've been loving these as throwing putters. Additionally, I have glass top Rhino. So this is a shout out to the Naz man himself, Tim. He had this laying around at Masters Cup and let me throw it a little bit. These are kind of my 180, 200 on in. It's kind of a gap in my game when it's just almost like too far to jump putt, but too close to throw any of my upshots. This Rhino comes in. I like them forehand. I like them backhand. They're just some of the most consistent overstable approach discs out there for me. Going up in stability, we have the P3X. Eric Seychao hooked me up with this one. This was always going to be my backup. Most people know me for a yellow Huck P3X. I recently aced that, and I'm one of those individuals that retire my ace discs. So this was my backup for that. Little shout out to local brick and mortar Huck Lab. So P3X's, something that's further than a Rhino, a little bit straighter than a Rhino. That's not going to go as far as a Praxis is when I grab this. So a lot of approach shots, not off the tee. P3X is absorbing that. I have my Overstable disc of choice, the Metal Flake Shimmer Toro. This was the volunteer package for BSF this year. I really wanted something, so it was my first ever Silver Series was BSF for a pro. So I wanted something to commemorate that. And Toros, especially this run, is a little bit more overstable, so I can trust it off angle if I need to. I can trust the stability on hyzer, in headwind. And it's made me fall in love with the Toro. I hadn't loved it before with the color glows, but the shimmer plastic has really been something I've been enjoying. So those are my putters. My throwing putters anyways. But my putting putters, everyone knows. So huge shout out to the sponsor, Birdie Disc Golf. Marvels have changed my putting game, and for the good. It's not something that I feel like I'm forced to say or anything. I just truly love the Marvels, and everybody that I've convinced to putt with them feels the same way. Effortless Circle 2 putting. They just hold laser straight, and that little bit of extra tick of glide helps them find chains a lot more regularly. I like them for when I need to go push putt, spin putt, smush. They're great. They're also great throwers. I putt with the stiff blend, so the Marvel is something that I think everybody should try out, and that is 100% honest opinion. I think they're the greatest putters that nobody's talking about. Well, I guess everyone's talking about it now. Putter of the year 2022. So get yourself some Marvels. I'm usually going to start from understable, work my way up to overstable. So the Mana is one that just came out from TSA. The Nebula Aura was a Zoe and Dak special, so shout out to Eugene here, local pro Zoe and Dyke. she has a Nebula Ethereal. To me, that was just a little too flippy. But the glow came out and put a little bit more integrity to that flight. It's still flippy, but it's one of those things you can trust to hyzer flip, turn, and still eventually come back. And so the glow mana has quickly became a staple in my bag, being able to kind of trust that it wants to move right with intent. Next up is the Mindbender. This has changed my mid-range game, and to be honest, my game completely. It's a disc that tells on me when I'm putting too much power and torque. It's a disc that rewards me when I am throwing with touch and precision. It's something that it's probably my go-to mid-range at this point. Anything up to like 330 to 350, I can trust it just laser straight at the basket with very minimal flight. I had a blue one that was super beat in, and that one I can trust to drift, but ended up losing that one. So this is a freshie I got from, like I said, the Nazman himself, Tim. So this one has a little bit of stability still left into it, and this one will give you some of that consistent finish that I'm looking for. Mindbender, I can't say enough. It was my mid-range of the year last year, and I think it's been something that's revolutionized my game and has given me more trust as I develop. Moving on up in stability is a Color Glow MD3. This is when, like I was saying, that rewards me for being touch. When I get tired and exhausted, I put more power and torque into discs than I want. The Mindbender and mana get a little squirrely with that. So what helps me is these Glow MD3. So this is something I can rip into and know it's not going to turn and burn, and know with that power and torque it's going to hold straight. It's probably one of the oldest discs in my bag at this point. And so it's kind of like a safety blanket where I just want to rip into something and have it to go straight. And so thankfully I haven't needed the safety blanket as much anymore, but it's always nice to have. With that, the first run Ethereal Pathfinder, this has more stability than the MD3. This is something that when I throw it with touch and precision, it's going to have an overstable finish at the end, something that I want to check up. I don't want to finish straight, and so this has been one of my absolute favorites. I've been reaching for it more and more to the point that it's starting to get a little beat in, and so it might be end up taking my MD3 spot once it gets that beat into hyzer flip to flat and then just finish straight, which to me a lot of the other Pathfinders fly like. This has been the most overstable Pathfinder that I found, and I want something like that where, like I said, I can throw it like my Mindbender, but it's going to have an overstable finish. So the Ethereal Pathfinder, this is again, shout out to the Nazman. And where would I be without the Ursus? So this is an overstable mid-range. It flies like a beat-in Justice. Eric Oakley is currently bagging it, and he probably sings its praise more than I can. This has given me scramble opportunities. This has reinforced my forehand. This has been when those tournaments I'm frustrated and I need a birdie, I can reach for it. I can trust it into headwind. I can trust it in no wind. It's just rewarding. This is also one of the first Paige inspired stamps on a disc. So shout out to the Lounge. If you know, you know. But you know, also shout out to Adam Papayek for designing and developing the stamp. Terminal Velocity Ursus. If you haven't thrown this disc, I recommend it. If you're a big Gator fan, if you're a big Justice fan, and you want that seasoned flight, Ursus is for you. Moving on to probably the bulk of my bag, which is fairways. This is where, like I was saying, it's course dependent with how these ebb and flow into my bag. And so I'm going to start with our 7 speeds. I have a second run FD. These things are the right amount of stable, right amount of stability, something that you can hammer into and have it finish straight, something you can back off and have an overstable finish. For me, one of the reasons I love the second run stability, one, the plastic takes forever to beat in, so you can trust that, you know, if you take it out of your bag for winter because it gets like glass, that it's still going to fly the same. They're not as glidey as other FDs, so when I need something that isn't going to push too far, but still be that fairway distance, the second run FD has been just that. Also one of the older discs that I've been throwing in my bag. Next up I have the Vila. So Sam Benson put me onto these. These are what I think of like the FD2s wanting to be. Overstable, but not too beefy. They're workable. You can forehand them, you can backhand them, you can trust them to be straight. So this has one of those off-kilter like presses from Vegas that people didn't like. I like them personally. It helps reinforce my thumb. I can go to the bigger end and slow down the spin, which is going to give it more stability, or I could go to the thinner area and put more spin onto it and get behind it a little more and keep it straight. But like the second run FD, this doesn't like to go as far as my other 7 speeds, and so these are like those like 340 to 360 range where it needs to check up, and I can't go too far. So the Vila. These two, on the other hand, like to go far for 7 speeds. We have the Vodum, the Glow Vodum. This one is getting seasoned at this point. The Vodum has quickly become one of my favorite TSA discs. And it's probably one of your favorite that you're not throwing yet. So I do strongly recommend you check out the Vodum. These things hold straight, always have a consistent finish. They'll take all the power you can muster into them, and they'll reward you with 360 to 380. They'll reward you with overstable finishes. They'll reward you for knowing how to control your flight. I just can't find enough reasons to throw this. Like, I will throw this any and every opportunity I get. So Glow Vodum, Birdie Disc Golf Strike. They really hit a home run with this one. One of the things I say about this, if you want a 7 speed to go a 9 speed distance, the Strike is that. And if you know what that means, then you understand sometimes you need to back off. You can't try too hard for a 9 speed, but you want to like fully rip into a 7 speed. This one just glides for days. The new Color Glow plastic has given it a little bit more stability than the swirly run, and that's kind of what I was needing. Something that you can hammer flat, get a little bit of drift out of, but it's always going to finish strong. The Strike has definitely been one that I've been in love with. This Color Glow plastic, I'm a big fan of. It's tacky, it's grip, and it's new Color Glow in the world, and that's never a bad thing. So Birdie Strike. Moving on to our 9 speeds. So this would be something that comes in and out of my bag on a regular basis. It's my roller disc. It's a Discraft Heat. Shout out to Brick and Mortar Huck Lab. But the Discraft Heat is something that gives me a sky roller. I can start on hyzer and it's gonna wanna pull to the perfect roller angle for me every single time. But not every course in Oregon has a roller hole, so I don't put it into my bag 100% of the time. But like, for example, PDX Open was last week. I threw this in my bag and I wasn't even doubting what it was going to do. It just was the roller disc I needed, and I threw it quite often, 3, 4, 5 times around. The Heat has been my go-to roller disc for a while, ever since the CH Sports Heat. So shout out to CH Sports. He took my last one, that guy. Probably the newest part of my bag, and the most surprising additions to my bag, to be honest, are the Constructs and the Cervini. So most people know me as a huge CD2 thrower, and I thought one of the benefits of throwing an open bag was that I was never going to get rid of my CD2s. But Terminal Velocity came out with their Cervini, which for me is a beat-in CD2. It's something you can start on hyzer. It's going to flip up, it's going to drift and turn, but it still has that integrity in the flight. It still has the stability, so it's not going to turn and burn. It's going to hold and drift. So this is the flippiest one out of the 3, and has really beat out my CD2. Shout out to Terminal Velocity, Birdie Disc Golf's Grow It, for helping support some of the nonprofit work that I do. I do a suicide prevention camp, so we did a big fundraiser for that, and this stamp helped fundraise for 2 of our suicide prevention camps. So huge shout out to those 3 sponsors. We're building on that this year and bringing more people in, and it's going to be an absolute blast. So Cervini. But these 2 have truly beat out my CD2s. And I say that absolutely proudly. I like to throw more affordable discs the chance I can get, but the Maria Oliva Construct since inception, since release, has become my go-to 9-speed for TSA. This is the reason why I qualified for Beaver St. Fling, was the construct. And a lot of those holes, like 90% of the throws, I was throwing the Nebula Ethereal construct. Hyzer flips to drift, keeps you in center fairway, which if you've played Milo, if you played Blue Lake, is the most important thing, is staying in the fairway. And being able to throw this and correct on it and replicate it hole after hole is, like I said, the main reason why I qualified for Beaver St. Fling. And so without TSA support, I wouldn't be in the Beaver St. Fling this year. So this disc quickly became, replaced my CD2. It's the domey version, so they're extra glidey, but they're hyzer flip to flat, maybe a little drift, but there's always coming back, and it always wants to come back. So I keep an Ethos construct. So this is a shout out to Josh Winter. When I got picked up on Team TSA, Josh Winter reached out, we played around, and he gifted me this Hulk color Ethos construct. If you know me, I love Hulk. I love the Hulk colorway. Green and purple are my favorite colorways. Doesn't matter what disc I can, I'm always trying to get green and purple. So this one to me is an overstable version of the construct. Something I can hit flat and just know it's going to be flat to stable finish. Something I can put on a little bit anhyzer and expect it to fight out without it being too overstable. It's something that just likes to go far and hold straight lines. I can't say enough about the construct. They beat out my CD2, and that is saying a lot for me. These fluctuate quite a bit. These are my 9-speed overstable discs. Really, I'm a huge FD3 thrower, so we have 4 of them. I don't need to go too much into an FD3. They're Firebirds, they're Raptors, they're different stabilities is the main reason I keep them. So we have from least stable to most stable. The Disc Maniac run is the reason I don't bag as many PDs anymore. They're the flippiest run, they go the farthest, and like FD3s, I can trust them on a full rip without drifting, without turning over, and get max distance out of them. The mobile store run of Color Glow FD3 is probably my most utilized FD3. These have just the right amount of stability, so anything from like 330 to 380, pushing hyzer finishes, low skip shots, forehand. This is primarily my go-to FD3, but with that, because it's my most thrown, it's also my most lost. And so one of the things that I have a hard time replacing is a beat-in mobile store run of FD3, which, cue this bad boy. The Coalesce, the Thomas Gilbert Nebula Ethereal run of Coalesce has been just that. New out of box, they fly like a beat-in mobile run FD3. I can trust it instantly on forehand, I can trust it on hyzers, I can trust it backhand. I'm not worried about doubting its flight because I know exactly how it should fly, and the more I throw it, the more I'm just falling in love with it. And so it's quickly become my beat-in replacement to my mobile store FD3s because I lose them so much. This is still this is brand new. See, no ink, no number, because I just lost another one. And so these two get a lot of my work when it comes to the overstable FD3 slots. I want to give a huge shout out not only to Mike Kemp, Black Vinyl Discs, Kyoto Rock on Instagram. He is one of my all-time favorite dyers, and so he put out a very limited run with less white last year of a Metal Flake FD3. These fly like Doombird 2s, but they season a little bit slower. They're a little bit straighter, but they still have the overstability on them. They're just something I love hammering. And this is a little cute shout out to Dallas Garber. This is the disc that I beat him for the state championship with. Final forehand of the day. Put it right underneath the basket for a tap in. I don't know the score, but it was a tap in win. And so this disc continues to see a lot of work and has a lot of fun with it. So Mike Kemp has changed up how he dyes discs. For the better, he has more creativity on them. He can get you know, some nice like rim work. You can get some deeper colors, but for me, the quintessential look for Mike Kemp is some of these older dies of his. And so this is the OG Glow FD3, the most overstable run of Glow FD3s. And I had to get one of the Mike Kemp OG dies. So shout out to you, because you continue to do amazing work. One of my absolute favorite dyers out there, and one of the most, I guess, gentle, nice people that I've known. He takes the time to introduce a lot of people to Discmania. He takes a lot of time to get to know people, to help people out, learn runs and identify runs. And so any way I can, I'm always going to be supporting Mike Kemp. And of course, I keep a PD. Like the MD3, it's a safety blanket at this point. I don't think I need a PD. I don't think I need an MD3 in my bag anymore, but I'm not sure I'm ready to let go quite yet. I throw FD3s a lot more than this one, but this is a third run PD. Shout out to DJR. Like I said, if you know, you know. He was another gentle, nice human being. But the third runs, there's something that matches my arm power well. Something I can push 380 on hyzer, finish, maybe get 400 out of it when the weather is a little bit more agreeable. Third run is stiff, solid plastic that can take a beating, and you don't have to worry about it. But these are my PDs of choice, third run PDs. I know that was a lot of fairways. Like I said, my fairways come in and out of my bags depending on the courses that I'm going. Not every course requires that many fairway drivers, but every course in Oregon requires specific fairway drivers to do specific things, which is why I have a bucket in my back of my car full of fairway drivers begging to be used for any given course. These are my distance drivers. We're going to transition to these. I don't bag as much distance drivers because I get everything I need out of these discs. My max distance forehands, I have two. These are pretty much forehand only discs. Occasionally I'll throw them backhand, but when I want something that I don't throw off angle torque very often, but I want something on off angle torque, I pick up my Halo Destroyer. It has my beautiful daughter's face on it, so this is another Mike Kemp shout out. He dyed this for me. Sometimes you get frustrated out there, and when I grab this disc, sometimes I can't be mad. I can't be mad looking at my daughter. I have a hard time doing that, so she reminds me to calm down, breathe. But it's also one of my most trusted discs on Anheuser in headwinds, but it's pretty much a forehand only disc. With that, this is my forehand only Wraith. I just like the way this new Halo feels for forehand, and because of that, I keep one just for forehand. These aren't the most overstable Wraiths, so I could hyzer flip them to flat, get some drift out of them, maybe some turn, and finish strong. I used to never think I could have a 350, 360 forehand, but not only has this given me that, it's given me it with control, with precision and trust. So these are my two forehand dominant drivers. The rest of it though are my backhand drivers. So I'm gonna go flippy to overstable. This, Jamie, shout out to Jamie Moore. He's one of my favorites. He's a Washington. He's shown me a lot of Washington golf. He's taken a lot of time and patience with me. And so he had this special seasoned CD3. It's from the pinned run, money run. Mike Kemp again, amazing dies. He did front and back for me. But this is flippy enough to the point to where I can put it on severe hyzer. It's going to flip up, turn, and hold. So this is by far my flippiest one. Tailwind bombers, specific like Anheuser shots, CD3 beat in. This is my go-to Halo Wraith. It's starting to get a little bit more beat in, so I got to find a replacement for it. But Ken Vinker did an amazing team TSA die for me. Because it's my most used disc, I wanted people to not think Halo Wraith. I wanted to think Thought Space Athletics when they see me throw this. And so this is something at 80% power, at 100% power. It's my max distance. I get full flights out of them. I can shape and carve with it, and I just throw this disc a lot more. Surprise, surprise, my next move up in stability is a no flight number run Halo Wraith. These are the definition of stability. They're going to hold any line I put them on. They're going to be a 10 to 15 mile headwind fighter. They're going to be just fighting its way to the basket and surprising me with distance. My final two are lightweight Domi Halo Wraith. These are a little bit overstable. Something where I need to put more power into it than my PD. Something I want to generate a little bit more spin on. And because of the lighter weight, I can still trust it to get different or distance. So these are like my 400, 420 kind of hyzer bombs that I'm throwing. And this one's my more overstable. This is a birthday present from the Nazman himself, Tim. These are my most overstable ones. These are the old Wraiths, so I like them backhand. They're tacky, they're grippy, they're overstable to the point that you can trust them, but they season to be absolute gems. So the Halo Wraith is by far all of my distance drivers, minus the CD3, and I have them all in varying stabilities. So I don't bag too much distance drivers because of that. Finally, I'm gonna give a shout out to Berg's Bags. They picked me up late on the season this year for their team. I love their bags, I really do. They have specialty holders for things like my bands. They have deep pockets that are actually usable. They have the ability to carry all of those discs. They're very utility, they're light, they shoulder well. And finally, I wanted to give a shout out to White Rhino. They're not a sponsor, they're just somebody that makes amazing minis. So he worked with me to put all of my sponsors on a mini. So I'm going to give a quick shout out to my sponsors: Birdie Disc Golf, Thought Space Athletics, Black Vinyl Discs, Terminal Velocity. Huge shout out to Brick and Mortar All Day Disc Golf. If you ever find yourself in Portland, look up All Day Disc Golf. Jesse Tomeno is definitely a disc golfer. His store is for disc golfers. He has every brand, from little brands like Terminal Velocity with two disc manufacturer, to the big known brands. They're recently featured on Alden Harris's one of Alden Harris's videos with Gatekeeper Media. So check out All Day Disc Golf. I can't show them enough love for what they're doing, both in the tournament scene, in the disc golf world, and supporting some of these up and coming companies. So with that, guys, I wanted to say thank you for watching my In the Bag video. I'm looking forward to what this can kind of open up. If you have any questions about discs, I keep a big bag and I've thrown even more, so I'm always happy to answer. But thank you all.